Hey, welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the episode, The Genesis Tub. Doesn't it have a nice ring to it? Now, if you remember from what I said before, in the previous episode for Homer to the Third Power, is that Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, who produced both of these episodes, they really wanted to experiment with the structure of the show, the storytelling, how we perceive of the show, and the animation and deep subjects that the show would explore through. And the Genesis Tub is one of those stories. For me, I was always intrigued by this idea because the whole point of this episode is that Lisa, decides to create a simple science experiment with her tooth that just fell off. But little did she know that, from a accidental electric shock, that her science project becomes a mini world of its own, filled with its own people, culture, and its own history. And that I thought was so cool. I mean, who wouldn't want that to have, a little universe or a little world right in front of them? I mean, we have that now in computers with SimCity or Roller Coaster Tycoon, so if you know those games, it goes along that type of mindset. And I thought that was really awesome, just think about that. Of course, as soon as the new city is starting to form, Bart isn't having it. He's like, it's super funny the way he does it. Bart grabs her science experiment, and Bart's like, smashing with his one finger, his one thumb. And it's like, smash it, smash it, smash it. It's done so jackassery, and Bart doesn't realize it, but when Lisa looks at the microscope, she sees that Bart has just destroyed the entire world after it went through the Stone Age, from the Renaissance to the future. While Lisa's in the present, her world has moved on to the future. That's pretty funny to think about. And in retaliation, and this is such a really cool sequence, the city fights back. They have an army of ships that then fly from Lisa's room to Bart's room, and it's an amazing sequence because it's all animated in perspective. We're traveling through the hallways, going over Santa's little helper, trusty friend here, and they actually fly over Bart and they hover around a little bit until they shoot him. They don't shoot him. I mean, they just zap him, much like a mosquito bite. But it is so well done. Like, how do they do that? It seems like they did it by, as a nod to what they did in Homer to the Third Power. They did I think they did a wireframe model of the Simpsons house, and they filmed, across it as you would with a live action film. They then printed, that wireframe on paper, so that way the 2D animators could trace over it, so that way the 2D animation can move in perspective with such precision and detail. And this was something that was done in animation, back in the 80s and 90s. Unlike some of the early Disney films back in the late 80s, like Oliver and Company or others of that sort. So I thought that was an amazing sequence. And of course, Bart's really pissed off. He's like, I'm gonna have vengeance, and Lisa's, all worried and freaked out. And then there's this really cool beam sequence that is alluding to Metropolis. If you know Metropolis, it's one of the most famous science fiction films ever made. It's like the beams are like something from the Art Deco period. They go up, they hover around her like here, and then she shrinks and she is brought down to the city. And that's when she realizes that Lisa is actually their god. That they worship her, as their ruler and master. And it's so cool how they visualize the sequence. The thing about the Oakley and Weinstein period was that they really spent a lot of time pushing the animation and the visuals. And for the city, it's all drawn out in hues of blue and green, and the background characters have a certain caricature to them, and so they're not just, bland background characters, they just visually stand out. And that goes to show their emphasis on background characters. If you don't know their period of the show, the background characters had a lot of witty lines or, good lines to read, so that they weren't just walking around doing nothing, they had, something to do. And that's something that I always appreciate, that little nuance. Kind of like what Seinfeld did back in the day. And from there, and speaking of Seinfeld, they then have a lot of deep philosophical talk going around. Like, they ask Lisa, you know, why am I sad? Or why do bad things happen to me? Or why do good people get punished? And Lisa doesn't know how to respond to that because she doesn't know. No one knows. Because that's the type of thing, people say in general, those deep philosophical stuff. Why do such things happen in the universe? So it's cool seeing them all play down in Lisa's universe. And that leads to one of the funniest revelations when Lisa finds out that if they view her as God, then they must view Bart as the devil, the evil one. and that's because, Bart destroyed their world, so they view him as the enemy. And Lisa's like, oh no, that's not true, but little does she know that Bart's, coming around for vengeance as he, promised. It's a really scary perspective. I remember it always terrified me. We see Bart from Lisa's perspective, so we're seeing it, from way down, and he's like towering over us, and he has this face of, I'm gonna, care about this shit, I'm gonna take over, and all the people are running away, terrified, almost like if King Kong was coming over to destroy them. Then you see poor Lisa, she's like, wait, stop, don't do this, Bart, and then you see Bart's hand coming around, and I was like, wow, this is getting really bad, what's gonna happen to Lisa? Well, it turns out Bart has other plans. He's not gonna destroy them. He's just gonna use Lisa's project to actually win the science fair. And it's really cool seeing how Bart actually, wins the science fair. I mean, yeah, he cheats. Yes, he stole that from Lisa, but it's nice to see Bart actually win one of those things, which he never does. And then you see how the teachers are so impressed by his work that they throw away all of the other kids' works, which they worked really hard on. Then as Bart's gonna get his prize, that certificate, Lisa's like, no, don't give it to him. Give me the damn certificate. I deserved it. I did all the work. And, that was super funny to see because you don't really see that on that side of Lisa. And this is why they wanted to show all sides of the characters' personalities. Lisa was their favorite character to work with. One of their favorite characters to work with. They also loved Skinner. But Lisa was especially close to them. So it's nice to see, she has a deep, smart side. And then she has this, what any person would react to. Like, that's my work. Acknowledge me. And then you see how Lisa's like, now that she's confined to the new universe that she's in, she's now, calling orders, telling people to do this, do that, do this. And it was good to see Lisa, you know, taking charge. I thought that was a nice, character moment for her. That now that she's queen, the ruler, that she can do whatever she wants. And that's it for now. Tune in next time for the next episode. Until then, see you later.
Hey, these aren't waffles. These are just square pancakes.
I'm sorry, honey. The waffle iron's in the shop.
That waffle iron's been in the shop forever.